Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. This video will be about my 5-star reads. Firstly, I would like to mention the 5-star reads that I had last year and then my 5-star reads that I've had so far this year. And I'm surprised. I actually have quite a few so far this year. A lot more than I did last year. I was pretty, I guess, stingy is the word I would use, maybe, on doling out 5 stars because I'm pretty picky. I'm a pretty not harsh judge of books, but kinda. It needs to be top tier perfect, basically, for me. So I had 7 5-star reads last year and I have 3 this year so far, which is crazy. Almost half of what I had all of last year, and it's only March. So we will get into it. I have a pretty diverse set of books here. There's contemporary romance, fantasy, Regency, and romantic suspense. So I'm pretty diverse in my taste, if you will. So we will start with books that I actually own, which is crazy because I don't own any. I have maybe 7 books in my collection here. I have a lot back home. Well, not necessarily a lot, but more than I have here. And I just don't buy books for funsies before I read them. I usually just get the ones that I will definitely reread, and my 5 stars are definitely books that I will pick up again. Let's start with my physical copy of books. We've got... I spent it. What's the saddest thing ever? We've got The Cheat Sheet by Sarah Adams. I think this was one of my first 5-star reads last year. It is just the most fluffiest feel-good book you could ever pick up. It's kind of cheesy. It's a little cheesy, so expect going into this with some Hallmark cheese, but not Hallmark, if you know what I mean. This is about Nathan. He is a professional football player, and Bree, she is a ballerina, and she teaches ballet and all that. And they are best friends, and they are obviously in love with each other. You get both of their POVs, which is an absolute must. And it's about their friendship and trying to hide their feelings for each other kind of thing. I think they fake date. Yeah, they have to pretend to be in love. That's on the back of the book. So I really, really enjoyed this, and I think you would too. It's just light and fluffy. It's really fun. Super cute. Then we've got Dangerous Beauty by Melissa Coslin. This is a Christian romantic suspense. It was a huge surprise for me. This was my first romantic suspense I think I've ever read. And I was like, how good could this genre actually be? And it was solid. This is probably going to go down as one of my top 5 favorite books of all time, probably. It's just such a good book. It does deal with really heavy topics. It's about this girl, her name is Liliana. She's being trafficked and she escapes. And this man, she escapes to a local gas station just across the Mexico border, I think into Texas. And she gets into this gas station and this man is there. And basically some things go down. The cops are called and he offers to marry her, to keep her in America. Otherwise, the police would take her back to Mexico, deport her, and she would be left to basically the traffickers to get her again. And so it's a marriage of convenience. I said this multiple times in my very first video. It is my favorite trope. So I can't say this enough. It's heavy. It is heavy, but it's really good. And the middle section is a little slow. So push through it because it's really good. I love this book. Definitely not my typical genre. I don't read a lot of romantic suspense. And then we've got Edenbrooke by Julianne Donaldson. This is my favorite book ever of all time, forever. Nothing will ever be able to top it. It's never going to happen. Mostly because this was like one of the very first books I ever read when I was like first getting into serious reading when I was like 13, 14. And it was in my mom's library, and I picked it up, and she told me to read it, and I was like, fine, whatever. Like, it's a Regency Romance. Like, how good could it be, right? And I fell in love with it. I reread it every single year. It's that good. And I share this love for this book with my mother, and it's her favorite of all time as well. So she gave this to me for my birthday in 2017. She always writes in my books when she gives me books for my birthday or Christmas. It's very sweet. And she got me the collector's edition, which is so beautiful. Look at that cover. Isn't that just beautiful? It's about this girl named, I think, Marianne. I'm so bad. This is my favorite book, and I don't even remember the main characters' names. Her name is Marianne. And his name? It is not in my mind right now. Philip! His name is Philip. I found it on a page. And she is headed towards her twin sister, and her twin sister is staying somewhere, so she's gonna go live there for a while with her sister, and she gets robbed by a highwayman on the way. And her carriage driver is shot, and so he's like bleeding out, and she's with her lady's maid, and they have to they're alone, so they help this guy into the carriage, which for two very small women, that must have been tough. And they put him in the carriage, take him to the closest inn, and they ask for help, and there's this gentleman there, and he's extremely abrasive and rude, and come to find out that he is the guy who her twin sister's been staying with. His name is Philip. So, really, really one of the best books I have ever read and will ever read. Nothing can top this beautiful book. Absolutely enjoyed. And then we've got The Ballad of Never After by Stephanie Garber, which is the second book in Once Upon a Broken Heart series. This is the spin-off series to the Caraval series. You don't need to read that series before this one, but I would highly recommend that you do. Because Caraval series goes through this whole world building, and I think it's helpful. And there's characters that show up too in this series as well. So I would highly recommend that you do so. But this is the second book. I enjoyed the first one. It was 4 stars. This one, though, was just so much better. I can't even explain it. And I can't really get into the plot because this is the second book. But basically, it's about this girl. Her name is Evangeline, and she gets invited to the Great North. I don't remember. And she meets up with Jax there. Jax is in the first series, the Caraval series, so if you know, you know. And so yeah, it's about Evangeline. And she's full of hope, and she believes in true love and all that stuff, and she's just so cute. So I highly recommend. It's a fantasy. It's a YA fantasy, so if you enjoy YA fantasy, this one is a pretty good beginner fantasy to get into. It's really easy to understand, and the world is beautiful. If you can imagine stuff in your brain, which I can, I'm an artist, so that's what I do. I just it's like a motion picture in my brain. This world was beautiful to imagine. Now, a segue into the Caraval series. I gave these ones 5 stars too. Only 2 of them though. So the Caraval series, oh my gosh, rewind, I can't speak. Caraval, and then the second book, Legendary. I gave the last one, I think, 4 or 4.5 stars, so it just didn't meet my high expectations. I know Caraval is a lot of people's least favorite of the series, but it was just one of those books that hooked me into fantasy. This was one of the first series I read when I got back on my reading journey last January. And I didn't want to pick it up because I was oh, it's going to be about the carnival. I was so wrong. It's called Caraval, first of all. But that's kind of what my brain was It's about carnies, and I did not want to read about it. But it was a pleasant surprise, and I absolutely adore it. It's probably one of my favorite fantasy series of all time. It's about these 2 sisters, Scarlett and Donatella, and they've wanted to go to Caraval since they were little girls. They write letters, and finally they get invited to go. And they live with an abusive father, so it's kind of like one of those things that they have to escape from. And so going to Caraval is like a beautiful dream to them, and they finally get to go. And so it's basically, the first one is about Scarlet, and the second one is about her sister, Donatella. And I can't really get into the plot because it will ruin everything, but this world is beautiful. It's kind of hard to imagine because some of the explanations are kind of super in-depth and kind of hard to understand, and the magic and everything. But once you get into it, it's beautiful. One of those worlds that you would love to live in because it's just so beautiful to imagine. But maybe it's not beautiful to others. I don't know. And then we've got one more 5-star from last year. I really didn't have very many. I was super picky. I just didn't think that a lot of books lived up to that 5-star potential, you know? But this one is kind of like, I don't know if anybody really knows about this book. It's called The Herbwitch Princess by Irene Chow. And this is the second book to the Witches of Old Daria series. The first one was cute. It was 4 stars. But this one was just so sweet. The author compares it to a Barbie movie. It reads like a Barbie movie. And if you love the old Barbie, like Swan Princess, 12 Dancing Princesses, Princess and the Pauper, all the good ones, this really did read like that. It was just so happy and just, it was so sweet. And there's talking cats. So that's cute. I don't like cats, but it was still cute. So it's about this girl. Her name is Narcissa. It's kind of like a redemption kind of book for her. And she is arranged to be married to the prince. I don't remember his name. And they have to, she's a witch and he is not. And witches kind of were like banned a long time ago. So she's a witch and people are like, no, we can never have a queen who's a witch. And so they kind of have to go on like a tour throughout their kingdom to kind of convince everyone that being a witch isn't a terrible thing. And so it was really cute. Like I said, Barbie movie vibes. If you want to read a Barbie movie, I suggest you pick this up. You don't necessarily need to read the first book first, but I would highly recommend it because then you kind of understand Narcissa, which is the main girl. And now my 5-star reads from this year so far. I have read like 27 books, or yeah, around there. And 3 of them have been 5 stars, which is nuts. My first 5-star read this year is Tuesdays Like That by Karina Taylor. I kind of mentioned this one in my first video in my January-February wrap-up, so I won't really get into it. But it's one of those books that made me like kick my feet in the air and giggle, and I'm not the type of human to do that, so it was really strange. And I'm sure my husband thought I was nuts. But really cute. It's a accidental marriage situation, which I think is just as fun as Marriage of Convenience. And so it was super cute and I really enjoyed it. The old people in this book, the grandma, if you like meddling old people, this one's really, really cute. I even got my mom to read it. So if that doesn't tell you anything, really enjoy it. She even bought it. She bought it. I haven't bought it yet and she has. So really cute. All of Karina Taylor's books, I couldn't recommend more. Like all of them. They're all really good. For the ones that I've read like 7 of her books. So for what I've read so far, she's like a good closed door author. I mean, all of these books that I do recommend are closed door. So like all of these authors are good to go to. Then we've got my second 5-star, Powerless by Lauren Roberts. Again, mentioned in my last video. I was actually not going to give this 5 stars. I gave it 4.5 in the beginning. And then I like ruminated over it over the night. And I was like, you know what? It was 5 stars. It was really solid. It's one of those like YA things, you know, like your little YA heart is like, yeah, this is what I like to read. It was really solid. And it's her debut novel. And it was really good. The writing, the banter between the main characters. I mean, come on. It was really good. Anyway, I can get into the plot a little bit. I don't remember if I did in the first video, but who cares? You're gonna hear it again. This is about a girl, don't remember her name. I'm so bad with remembering people's names in books, unless it's on the back. It's not. Anyway, the main girl is a ordinary, which basically, Powerless, right? So everybody else has powers and she's an ordinary, and ordinaries were like all murdered like years before, but there's still ordinaries around. And, oh god, oops. And so she kind of has to live her life pretending that she does have powers. She pretends she's a psychic to kind of get by so people don't know that she actually is ordinary. And so she gets chosen for these trials at the castle, and she kind of has to like pretend that she knows what she's doing, and she actually doesn't because she's an ordinary. And so really good. That ending though, I need the second book right now, and it doesn't come out till July. So I'm dying inside. I think it's going to be a trilogy, so we have to wait for the third book, which is terrible. And there actually is a little novella called Powerful. I actually saved it on my Libby app because that's how I read my books, because I don't go buy books all the time. Not that I'm bashing on people who do buy books, but I don't do that. Yeah, it's called Powerful. It's like a little novella about the main girl's friend, while the things going down on here, it's like her perspective, her own book, while during the things in this book. So I'll probably give it a read, but I can't wait for that second book. Last 5-star of this year so far. I hope for many 5 stars to come, so I'll probably do another 5-star video at the end of the year. But I just had to recommend all my 5 stars from last year. This is my last one. It's Blackmoore by Julianne Donaldson. And again, this is the same author as Edenbrooke, my favorite book of all time. So she's just solid. She's just a good writer. But I actually don't know if she has any other books besides these two, because these are the only ones I've ever read. This book is about a girl named Kate and a boy named Henry, and they are best friends. They grew up next to each other, and she's actually more best friends with his sister, but they all are like a best friend group. And she was never allowed to visit his actual home. It was kind of, he stayed in like the summer home most of the year, which was next to her, and then they have their actual estate. And she was never invited because the mother doesn't like her. And so finally, after so many years, she gets invited to go, and she's so excited. And from the beginning, you know that Henry absolutely loves her with all of his heart. And so it's kind of frustrating because she doesn't understand that. She doesn't know that. And so that's annoying. But it's just a very sweet book. It's a nostalgic read for me, again, because it's like one of the very first books I picked up. And it was so sweet. And it's a Regency Romance. It's very clean. There's nothing in it. I mean, all of these books really are top tier, closed door clean. And so I highly recommend this one too. It's just so sweet and absolutely adorable. One of my favorite books of all time, probably. Definitely not as good as some of my other 5 stars, but still highly, highly recommend. She's a good author. Ugh, I'm so hungry. That is all of my 5-star reads from the last year and a half. So I hope you find your next 5-star read, maybe, or just something that you enjoy. I love giving these recommendations. They are some of the best recommendations I could possibly give. Obviously, they're my 5 stars. So anyway, that's all. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.